Hi everybody, this is Phil Moss. Welcome back for another session of The Grade. I am the teacher of the 8th grade seminar. I'm also one of the executive directors of the Grade program. So welcome back. We're sorry that once again we can't have the Grade session in person, but we're excited to connect with you using these virtual means. So today we're going to talk about never quitting. But as usual, before we dive into our session, I thought it would be good to review kind of some of the big ideas that we've gone over the course of these months. So at this point we can put the slide of kind of the recap slide. So look at the top of the screen. We have our timeline there. Remember that this is the timeline of your life. So assuming that you're born in 2006 and that average lifetime is 80 years, so that takes you to 2086. And a lot of things happening. So we have a lot of things going on in that box. High school, college, professional life, marriage, first child being born. So things that are happening within a span of just a few years that are going to shape the rest of your life. And so these are big decisions. And the question is, will you be prepared? Here at The Grade, that's what we're here for. We want to help you to be prepared for those big decisions so that you can live a very rich and full life. Let's remember the 4 pillars of The Grade: fatherhood, friendship, professionalism, and citizenship. So these are the roles that you will have in your life. Okay, so now let's review some of the key lessons that we've learned over the course of these past months. To have good friends, be a good friend. So maybe you've lived this out these past weeks by calling your friends to check in on them, maybe to send them a letter. And this is a great way to develop good friendships, is first and foremost being a good friend yourself. To be free, I need the help of authority. So we know that freedom is not just a capacity to do anything, but it's a capacity to do the good. And we need the help of authority to help guide our decisions. And how clearly we see this now in this time of the coronavirus crisis, that we need authority, the authority to help us to make decisions about our activities. Dating is the beginning of a process that leads to marriage. And it's important to only begin that process at once you are ready for it. To focus on your ideals, pay attention to your attention. So we want to have big ideals in life. And we know that these are things that that we strive for over the course of many years. But in order to strive for those ideals, we need to be focused in the here and now. And so that's why we say, pay attention to your attention. What are you doing with your attention? Are you paying attention in this hour of study? Are you paying attention in this activity that you're working on? Are you paying attention in this family meal? Well, these are where you're shaping your ideals. And so paying attention to your attention will allow you to be focused on those big ideals that you long to have. The bedrock of service is the willingness to learn. So this is the message, the idea that we discussed in our session on study, right? That study is not simply about acquiring pieces of information in our head, but it's about putting ourselves in a position that we can serve others. To love and serve our family, our friends, our country, our community, we need to have knowledge that we can draw from, right, in order to make our service possible. So last month we talked about true manliness, and we defined true manliness as having a manly character that is for others, for your family. It's not enough just to be strong, right? We want to be strong for others, and in the case of a father, it's being strong for his wife and for his children. So I want to begin with telling you the story of Thomas Vanderwoody. So when I was in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, I lived in Manassas, Virginia. My family lived in Manassas, Virginia. I went to a school there for 2 years called Holy Family Academy, and then in 7th grade I went to Seton School, a wonderful school. Had a great experience there, many wonderful families. And one of the families that was at that school was the Vanderwoody family. And so I want to talk to you about Mr. Vanderwoody. His name was Thomas Vanderwoody. So I'm going to read to you a few portions of this article that talks about the life of Mr. Vanderwoody, who I had the good fortune of knowing. He was born in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in 1942. Vanderwoody left the farm to join the Navy. A pilot, he served the country for 17 years and was a Vietnam War veteran. He married Mary Ellen Early in 1964, and the couple raised 7 sons: Tom, Steve, Dan, Bob, Chris, Pat, and Joseph. In 2002, he retired after 26 years as a commercial airline pilot. Between 2002 and 2007, he served as athletics director at Christendom College in Front Royal. So when I was in 7th grade, I was at the school, and some of the sons of Mr. Vanderwoody were at that school. In fact, one of the sons was my older brother's classmate, so there was some contact. And what really was engraved in my mind from those years of Mr. Vanderwoody was the image of him with his son Joseph. So Joseph had Down syndrome. And so when I think of Mr. Vanderwoody, I can't think of him without his son Joseph. Now in 2008, Tom Vanderwoody's life came to an end tragically. So he and his family, they were at their home, and his son Joseph, that Down syndrome child who Mr. Vanderwoody was constantly caring for, he was running around the yard and he stepped onto some boards, and I guess they gave in, and they were covering a septic tank. And so Joseph Vanderwoody fell into the septic tank and was flailing, and his life was at risk. And so Mr. Vanderwoody, without batting an eye, he jumped into the tank, giving instructions to somebody outside to pull Joseph, while Mr. Vanderwoody went under the surface to lift up his son Joseph. And Mr. Vanderwoody drowned. So a very tragic death, but at the same time there is something very beautiful which I wanted to highlight, which is evident. It's simply the fact that he gave his life for his son. As the headmaster of Seton School said, he died as he lived. So the story of Tom Vanderwoody, I think it exemplifies a life of service to others, a life of self-gift, especially for one's family. And even the way that he died, I think, gives an example to us of giving our life and giving one's life to the end, persevering to the end. The remarkable thing about his life was not only the heroic nature of his death, of giving his life for his son, but the heroic nature of his life. That, as Mrs. Carroll said, the headmaster of Seton School, he died as he lived. And the way that he died, in that sacrificial moment of his death, we find condensed the way he lived his entire life, which was giving himself for his family and for his son. In a sense, the decision to jump into the tank was not surprising, because he was always giving his life for his family and friends. So, in a certain sense, what we want to do over the course of our life is give ourselves to the people that we love. And Mr. Vanderwoody did that in the moment of his death, and he also did that over the course of his whole life. And I would say that a key ingredient to that self-gift is never quitting, which is what we're going to talk about today. Consider how our self-gift will be strength for other people. So your wife, your children, your friends, your community, they're going to lean and rest on your capacity to give of yourself. And that's going to be kind of the strength of your dependability. In fact, you might say that dependability is self-gift sustained over time, also in trial and adversity. Dependability, that's such an attractive word. I think we would all say very quickly that yes, I want to be dependable. And I see this as a very important feature of my life. We don't want to be like that column in the house of my family in Great Falls, Virginia. So when we moved into that house when I was in 8th grade, my grandmother came and she thought it would be a great idea to put some decoration in the kind of the space connecting the dining room to the living room. And so she thought it'd be great to put in these fake columns. And so we had these columns that were there adorning that space. And so at one point, my parents had a gathering, a party at the house, and there were many people over. And so there were some persons who were near those columns having a conversation, having a drink, an appetizer. And so then one of these persons decided to lean up against that column, and all of a sudden that column gave way. And so it was kind of an amusing moment because you have this column and all of a sudden it just falls over. So we want to be dependable like a column, but like a strong, sturdy column, not like that column in the house of my parents. Where does that strength come from? Where do you draw from? What makes us dependable? And I think that a key element of our dependability are our convictions. Convictions. What are convictions? Convictions are attitudes of the heart that come to the surface when we make decisions. They come to the surface in our behavior. They make us determine what is important in a given situation. You might say that there are strong beliefs that shape our behavior. So they come more evident, I think, when in moments of trial or in adversity. And in a past class, I told you about a friend of mine named Kyle, and somebody who was an example and an inspiration for me. And I remember when we were in high school, one time there were some of the quote unquote cool kids of the class were ganging up on one of the younger guys. And so they picked up this younger guy to carry him out of the room to do who knows what. And Kyle, who is a strong guy, he planted himself in the doorway and told the cool guys of the class, "You are not going anywhere with him. Put him down." And so eventually the guys they heeded Kyle's insistence and they put him down, and that was that. But what conviction might you say was operating there in Kyle's heart? I would say you could say a number of things, but you could say that present there was a conviction is I will protect and defend others. I will protect and defend my friends. Also, maybe one of the other convictions we could identify as I will not let the opinion of others dictate my behavior. There was another moment that comes to mind in which I was at Kyle's house, and it was I believe it was in the summer. There was nothing going on, and we wanted to go watch a movie, and so we looked up the movie, found a time, and we were gonna head out. And so Kyle said to his mother, "Mom, Phil and I are gonna go to the movie, and we'll be back later." And Kyle's mother said, "Kyle, if you don't mind, I would prefer that you stay in tonight." And so my instinct was what maybe is typical of most high schoolers is, okay, this is wartime where you have to kind of, stand for your rights, that this is a summer night and we have nothing going on and there's nothing going on at the house either. And so, we should be allowed to go do this. But Kyle's reaction was remarkable, and I've dwelt on it a lot ever since. But he simply said, "Okay, Mom," and without a word, that was it. And so we ended up just staying at Kyle's house that night. So what conviction was operating there in Kyle's heart? Well, you might say it was, I will obey Mom and Dad because I love them, right? And that was something that was very natural to him. So we want to have strong convictions. Those convictions are going to give us a capacity to be there for others, to love people. They are going to drive our behavior, drive our decisions. What are those key beliefs that are present in your heart that guide your decisions and your actions? Maybe think about this pandemic shutdown right now? Do you complain? Well, might that complaint reveal sort of an idea that I'm entitled to certain things? I'm entitled to my entertainment. I'm entitled to my recreation, whatever it might be. So let's have a look at a few convictions that I think that most of us probably recognize as good things, but whether or not they've settled into our hearts as something that drive our behavior, it's not entirely clear. Maybe it's good for us, each of us, to think about. My life is for God and others. Happiness is to be found in giving myself. I will always tell the truth. I will enjoy the good things that God gives me, but I will not let love of comfort dictate my behavior. I will strive for excellence in my work. And I'm sure we could all sit down and make a long list of convictions that we would like to be there present in our heart. But the question is, okay, we recognize that these are good things to have, but how do you actually develop them? And remember, we're talking about this in the context of never quitting, because never quitting entails sustaining effort in difficult situations, right, for the sake of loving others, of giving ourselves to others. So what I'm proposing is that what's going to sustain that self-gift are precisely these convictions that are firm and are present in our heart. So how do you develop convictions? Well, I think what has a key role in developing conditions are moments of difficulty and trial. These are when convictions are put to the test and are forged. So think about the conviction, I strive for excellence in my work. That conviction is put to the test when tiredness sets in an hour of study, or an assignment is especially difficult, and you feel like giving up, or you feel like taking a break, or you feel like going to get a snack, or whatever, or looking at your phone, or whatever it might be. But I strive for excellence in my work is going to overcome that temptation to give up and to persevere in that hour of study, to persevere in that assignment, and to do it well. And if you do that, that conviction is strengthened. So next time it becomes a little bit easier, right? And once again, that strength, that conviction is something that you can draw from in the moment of difficulty. Or let's think about another conviction. I will love God and others with a pure heart. I will not let opinion of my peers drive my behavior. So those convictions are put to the test when all of a sudden a classmate or a teammate shows you an inappropriate image on their phone. So what will you do? Will you have those convictions to draw from to react in a good way? If the objective is to have strong convictions that make us be there for the people that we care about, for the people we love, then difficulties and challenges are not a problem. In fact, they're just what we need to become strong, and they're just what we need to become dependable. They're just what we need to have that attitude of I will not quit. There is a character in the movie Dunkirk that I think exemplifies this, at least in my mind. It's a movie that came out a couple years ago about the retreat of the Allied forces from continental Europe and France across the English Channel back into Great Britain. So basically, Germany is advancing and all the Allied troops are there accumulated on the shore in France. And so they're very vulnerable, and there aren't enough ships to take them across the channel into England, and so they're just there waiting. Basically, they're very vulnerable, and you have these German pilots that are kind of flying above and attacking them. And so you have a few English fighters that are there trying to defend their troops on the ground. And so the movie centers on one of these pilots. I don't even know what his name was, but his what he did kind of struck me, and I thought it was a good example of never quitting and also magnanimity, fortitude, a lot of things. But the situation was this: troops are on the ground. This pilot is flying over, and he's running out of fuel, and he knows that he's going to need a certain amount of fuel to get back to England. But while he's there defending his troops, there are no other fighters that are there to kind of replace him. So he knows that if he leaves, his troops are just completely exposed. and so it's a question of time, because these troops are there slowly being carried away by vessels coming across the channel. So every second that he's there to protect his troops means lives that are being saved. And so you can tell that he's deliberating. He's looking at his instrument panel, and there you have the fuel gauge, and it's constantly getting lower and lower and lower. And then you can see that there's a switch, which enables him to tap into his reserve fuel tank. And so you know that he needs that tank to get back to England if he's going to get back. But at a certain point, you see this kind of back and forth going on in his mind. You can just tell it from the expression on his face. And he lifts up his finger, and in a very significant gesture, he flicks that switch to the reserve tank, and then he proceeds to storm after some German pilot. And with that, you can tell, with that little swipe of the finger, he basically is saying, "I'm all in," right? So in a certain sense, that little swipe of the finger brought to light that conviction that he had in his heart is, I am going to give myself completely for my country and for my fellow soldiers. So in the end, this pilot, he ended up running out of gas, and he had to land on the beach there in France, and then he was captured by German soldiers. So once again, I think also an example of a man saying, my life is for the others. So never quit. With these ideas, I think we're more capable of understanding the virtue of fortitude. Never quitting is not the same thing as fortitude, right? But I think it's a fundamental piece of it. I think we find a good definition for fortitude in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which says, fortitude is the moral virtue that ensures firmness in difficulties and constancy in the pursuit of good. So firmness in difficulty, firmness in fear, firmness in tiredness, standing strong, right? And constancy in the pursuit of good. So you think about a mother who night after night, or a father who night after night is getting up to attend to the crying child, right? One night, another night, another night, another night, constancy. Never just kind of turning over and saying, well, I'm just going to not do it tonight. Or a student, one day after another, hour of study, constancy, right? A quitter is excluded from the possibility of having this quality. So consider that pilot from Dunkirk. Clearly he was a man who had this idea ingrained in his heart, never quit. You might remember the marshmallow video that we saw earlier on in the year, where you had, it was this experiment where you had the kids there, and somebody would come in and give them a marshmallow and tell them, you can either eat this marshmallow now, or wait, and when I come back, I'll give you a second marshmallow, and you can have 2 marshmallows. And then they recorded these children, and then you had some kids that would eat the marshmallow right away. Some kids who tried to resist for a little bit, but then ended up eating it, and some kids who actually waited and got the 2 marshmallows. And remember how they tracked these kids over time, and they found that the people who had that capacity to wait, right, and to withhold that urge, to satisfy their craving. They were actually the ones who were able to be stronger in life in a variety of ways, in their professional work and their various commitments. You might think that the kid who pounces on the marshmallow and eats it, what's the conviction that you find in his heart? Well, I will satisfy my appetite as quickly as possible. Now, anyway. It's just a silly, amusing example, but of course, we want to have that strength to be able to pursue the arduous good. Think about that pilot, that conviction. I am for my countrymen. I will never quit in defending them. Now, we've contemplated some spectacular moments here. For example, the pilot at war, or also that father who performs a heroic action of diving into the septic tank to save his drowning son, and in the end gives his own life. These, I think, help illustrate these principles. But these principles, these convictions are forged in daily life, every single day. For firmness and constancy in big things, in those big trials and challenges in life, we need firmness and constancy in the little things. So let's have a look at some areas in daily life in which you can try to build that capacity to say, never quit. So the first one is the heroic minute, getting out of bed on time. So as soon as that alarm goes off, getting out of bed, right? The person who delays is kind of treating his day as a threat and saying, no, day, I prefer my comfort, please stay away from me. But we want to have that sense of jumping up, right? And attacking our day with strength and with vigor. Making your bed every day, right? So how about constancy? The constancy to be found in making your day not just once, but day after day after day. Now that takes strength. Your homework, we already talked about that. Great way to forge that attitude of never quitting. Chores around the house, so when you set to clear the dishwasher, do you clear it all the way? Do you put everything in its place, or do you satisfy yourself with just clearing it halfway, or maybe just putting things out on the counter? No, I think never quitting leads us to clear the dishwasher all the way and putting things where they belong. Manual labor. So I remember this past winter, we were in Guatemala on the service project, and we had to remove some stains from the ground. And so it was awesome to see some of the guys there on their hands and knees with these scrubs, removing those paint stains from the ground, scrubbing as hard as they could. And it was very tiring, and they kept going at it until those stains were gone. Or also one of the fellows who at one point there was a toilet that was very in an unpleasant condition, and somebody needed to clean it, and so one of the fellows jumped up. Well, I think these guys are people who exemplified that ideal of never quitting. Now think about the different clubs or teams that you're a part of. I think an easy one to think about is the Scouts. I know a lot of you are in Boy Scouts, and so I think it's great, to see people who say, I'm going to go all the way through with my Eagle Scout. Some people don't do it because they have other commitments, and so you have to make a decision at some point. But for those who decide to go all the way through with Eagle Scout, I think that's a great thing to do. Or even think about learning a piece on the piano, right? Not quitting until I've learned it well, right? I have it memorized. I also have kind of the different details of the piece worked out, like the volume or the tempo. Or a sports team, not quitting in my exercise or my training, or I want to improve in my free throw. Well, shooting one free throw after another, and slowly I improve my form and I become a better free throw shooter. Or also, I think summer jobs are a great occasion for growing in this. So working 8-hour days, day after day, is something that's challenging and something that maybe as a student you're not used to. Well, that's a great way of also growing and never quitting, and it's going to be easy to kind of settle into a self-seeking mentality of, I'm just going to take a break, or I'm just going to lay low. But I think in those summer job opportunities, you have the chance of saying, no, I'm gonna continue through. So in all these things, how easy it is for those telltale complaints of a coward to settle in. And all of us have elements of cowardice in us, right? So we're all struggling here. But what does the coward say? The coward says, it's too hard. The coward says, I'm too tired. The coward says, can't somebody else do this? The coward says, I'm not feeling it. But where are these attitudes found in the pilot? Where are these attitudes found in Thomas Vanderwoody? So these are precisely the moments that we have to grow and to grow in strength. Have a sporting spirit. I think this is important for us to grow in fortitude and to grow in that never quit mentality. Sporting spirit. So what does the athlete do? The athlete does not just give up after the first try, but he tries time and time again. Your grade goals, I think, can help you with this. You know, that those grade goals are there, something to shoot for. Now, that doesn't mean that every single time you're going to hit it. There are going to be many times where you don't. But the never quit mentality is going to say, I'm not going to go tired of trying to pursue this goal. So this is something that St. Josemaria very humorously would talk about. He would give the example of somebody, of the pole vaulter in the Olympics, who tries, one time, and he gives it his best shot, but then he doesn't make it. Well, he doesn't just give up, right? He goes back and he focuses his energy and he goes at it again and again and again until finally one time he plants that pole, lifts up his body, and over he goes. So think about, maybe you have the goal of playing with your siblings, right? Of spending time with your siblings. Well, maybe one day the opportunity presents itself. You say, no, I'm going to just go spend time in my room, or I'm just going to go, do my own activity, or I'm going to go play my game. But I think you have to have that sporting spirit of not giving up. And next time that opportunity presents itself, you say, go for it. Okay, now the time has come to play with my siblings. Go for it. So in conclusion, I want to be a firm support for the people I care about. I want to be a firm support for the people I love. Think about a big, strong, sturdy column, right? And think about all the people in your life. Think about the 4 pillars of the grade. Your family, your friends, your community, your country, right? Resting on that column, on that pillar. So there's one final story I want to share with you. And this is a story that comes from an article called A Message for Garcia. And this is an article or an essay that was written in 1899 about First Lieutenant Andrew S. Rowan during the Spanish-American War, which took place in Cuba. So I'll read you a portion from this article. When war broke out between Spain and the United States, it was very necessary to communicate quickly with the leader of the insurgents. Garcia was somewhere in the mountain fastness of Cuba. No one knew where. No mail or telegraph could reach him. The President of the United States needed to secure his cooperation, and quickly. What to do? Someone said to the President, "There's a fellow by the name of Rowan who will find Garcia for you, if anyone can." Rowan was sent for and given a letter to be delivered to Garcia. How the fellow by name of Rowan took the letter, sealed it up in an oilskin pouch, strapped it up over his heart, in 4 days landed by night off the coast of Cuba from an open boat, disappeared into the jungle, and in 3 weeks came out on the other side of the island, having traversed a hostile country on foot, and having delivered his letter to Garcia, are things I have no special desire now to tell in detail. The point I wish to make is this. President McKinley gave Rowan a letter to be delivered to Garcia. Rowan took the letter and did not ask, "Where is he at?" By the Eternal, there is a man whose form should be cast in deathless bronze and the statue placed in every college in the land. What young people need is a stiffening of the vertebrae which will cause them to be loyal to a trust, to act promptly, to concentrate their energies. Do the thing. Carry a message to Garcia. General Garcia is dead now, but there are other Garcias. And the essay goes on to talk about how we need to have this attitude to carry a message to Garcia. And so the people that you care about will ask you to carry a message to Garcia. The people that you care about are going to have a mission for you. And so you have the possibility of meeting that mission with complaint, with resistance, of saying, "I'm tired, I don't want to." Or you have the possibility of embracing that mission and not quitting in the fulfillment of that mission. So over the course of your life, people are going to be entrusted into your arms. It might be literally, in the case of a son who is in your arms, resting in your strength, or even figuratively, right? The different people that depend upon you. And each of those persons, their mere existence will entail a mission for you. And the question is, will you have the strength to never quit in those missions that matter most in life? Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed this session. Your mentor will be getting in touch with you to schedule a mentoring session over a video chat once again this month. And we'll keep you posted about what our plans are for the session in May. Take care. Bye-bye.